So, Facebook Live deal. Facebook Live deal. Exactly. Exactly.
Yes, hi Nalin.
Hi, is Boria on the call?
Yeah, so he is having some problem logging in. Krishna is on call with him, helping him to log in.
Okay.
So Payal's going to start. I prompted her. She'll wait for Boria to join in, then we'll start.
Yeah, we'll let him.
I've done both. You are sending your video. Yeah, it's online now. Can you see?
Boria,
Hi, can you hear me?
can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see myself or you.
Same here. I can also hear you, but I can't see you. I can only see myself. Now I can see you.
Unfortunately, I can't see myself, but I can see you. As long as you are able to see me, we can get going.
पर तुम्हारा आवाज कट रहा है बोरिया.
अभी सुनाई दे रहा है तुम्हें?
Coming and going.
I can hear you clear.
Just can you hear me, Priya?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so Julian is joining us shortly, right?
Yeah, I mean, Krishna and Harper team was supposed to get her online, but I can now sort of hear you and see you.
ठीक है. So how do we structure this? तुमने क्या सोचा है?
No, we can get going. I mean, you and I can just have the conversation involve Julian. That's very simple. As long as you can see me, hear me, we are good to go.
Boria, hi, good morning. Akriti here.
Yeah.
We've got
Hi.
Payal from Algebra. She's just going to start the introduction. This can take over.
Can you guys see me and hear me?
Yes, we can see everybody.
So then let's go.
Payal, please start. You have to unmute yourself.
Akriti, I can hear you very clearly, but his voice is coming and going.
I think that will be a bandwidth issue from his end then.
No, from my
I can
bandwidth
hear
is
both of you clearly, if that helps.
my bandwidth is pretty clear because it's a dongle bandwidth. It's like this I'm using every day for shows.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that I can hear Boria clearly. Of your bandwidth problem possibly.
We'll
Let's just start. I'll just request Payal to start the introductions and then you guys will take over.
Hi, good morning and welcome. Good morning, welcome back to Reset. This is week 3 of Reset, which is a collaboration between HarperCollins Publishers and Algebra, the Arts and Ideas Club. And the idea really being across the spectrum, both on what is the crisis in our midst and taking off from that on longer term questions that we all need to ask. Today is a fascinating and very different conversation, both from what we've been hosting and from what you've been hearing, I think, on most platforms, because we're immersing ourselves in the world of sport. And sport, of course, is both things. Sport is colossal global spectacle. It is community at its finest, but it is also always metaphor. The metaphor of the sporting spirit, what it can do for a community, how you can build community in a time when you are distant, and what does the world of sport have to do with the pandemic. We have 3 riveting people joining us today to speak. You're familiar with them all, but I'll introduce them each in just a quick line. And to trigger this conversation, Boria Majumdar, he is, of course, a sports historian, a sports columnist, author, and somebody we're pretty much as familiar with as our favorite sports person. We have Nalin Mehta. He is a long-standing both editor, commentator, journalist, a social scientist, and somebody who I think, along with Boria, has also co-authored a book on the Olympics, a veteran both in the world of sport and outside it. And of course, it is a pleasure to have from within the trenches of playing, Julan Goswami, who is a former, of course, Indian women's cricket captain, but also called the Lightning Lady of Indian cricket. I'm going to hand you over to Boria to take this conversation forward. We're absolutely looking forward to hearing this. Thank you so much, Boria. Over to you.
Thanks, Payal. Thanks. I mean, you call it the sporting spirit. I'm glad that Algebra Reset and HarperCollins are coming together and bringing these set of conversations to you. You've referred to sport as a metaphor. I mean, if I can sort of get going with both my panelists, Nalin and Julan. Nalin, to you first. Yeah. How does sport change? Obviously, sport will emerge stronger and come back at some point in time. If everything comes back, sport will. Perhaps one of the first things that will come back, maybe empty stadiums, maybe whatever. But two questions for you. One, how do you see sport emerging out of this? And do you actually envisage that at least in the foreseeable future, we will have sport in empty stadiums? And are you up for it?
Boria, first in terms of context, I think these are very important questions to answer. This crisis is comparable. If you only compare it to sporting domain, the only thing I can think which is comparable to this is what happened in World War II, when sport around the world stopped for a long period of time, and it completely changed the nature of sport itself. You know, your journals have documented how in World War II, for example, it changed the entire nature of recruitment in American baseball and American sport. It brought in a lot more women. Women baseball was a creation of that interwar period. This crisis, because the reason why I'm saying comparing it to that, because economically we are now comparing it to the economic situation around the Great Depression. And also this is not a short-term situation in front of us, which is what it looked like sometime earlier. This is going to go on for a long period of time with social distancing and so on, until the time you find a vaccine or a cure. Because even if the lockdown lifts, the risk to people, individual risk to people does not change. So therefore, sports will have to fundamentally change and adapt. I think empty stadiums is definitely a reality we have to contend with. And also I mean, the first thing, logistics. The entire sporting calendar has been thrown up for grabs, right? So now organizations around the world will have to redraw the calendar completely, and that's 2-3 months down the line. After that, you're talking about the amount of money which powers these sports, or the IPL, for example, Olympics. You know exactly what's happening in the money situation there. And the third is the nature of sport itself. I think we'll have to get used to a different kind of reality with much lesser money coming in, but also there is also the opportunity, because if you're going to have sports primarily moving to only to phones or to personal streaming devices and so on, people are going to stay at home, then this week you speak to the head of the World Bank in India, and he made this point that you think we have a template, you think governments have a template to deal with this. You're wrong. We are all making this up as we go along, because we've never seen a situation of this magnitude before. It's the same with sport. Will it change radically? Absolutely. What form or how and what shape it will take, I think that is something we'll have to evolve every day, because you can't even predict right now what's going to happen 2 weeks down the line.
I think Nalin's absolutely right. I mean, just a couple more points before I go to Jhulan. One, if airlines open up, aviation industry opens up, sport will. If railways open up, I mean, take the case of India. Where does India move maximum? Railways. At some point in time, we'll have to put in social distancing measures. How we open up, we don't know. But if we do, sport will. If religious congregations ever happen in this world, sport will. So anyone who says sport will open up last is wrong. Anthony Fauci is already on record that Major League Baseball teams should start playing in the United States, one of the worst affected, if not the worst, with empty stadiums. So my question directly to Jhulan Goswami now. Jhulan, if you can hear me loud and clear, as a sports person, I mean, some people are saying, and as a bowler, you will not shine the ball with saliva, or will you? That is a question that's being asked around the world. Question number one, very straight to you. Next year, you have the Women's World Cup. You are supposed to play for India. Now, if that World Cup goes ahead, which it should by next year, we should have it under control, will you agree to playing in empty stadiums? Number two, will you still shine the ball in the manner that you are doing today? Jhulan, if you can hear me. Is Jhulan able to hear me? Otherwise, if Nalin, you could take that while I ask my technical team to sort that out.
I think in terms of this question, I mean, a lot of media was talking about this. I think people had to readjust the way we work. The boundaries between work and work have really blurred in the last few days. It'll be no different for sports people in terms of playing in empty stadiums. Yes, I think I agree with you on the first point you made, that if you say that sport will be the last, I don't think it'll be the last. It will come back, but also remember the amount of money which is riding on sport. Also, I think people are now, you can't keep the entire economy shut down for large periods of time. People have to earn a living, and people have to find ways of getting back to some sense of normalcy. So yeah, sports will return to empty stadiums, yes. In terms of bowling, the specific question you asked, yes, I think people will be very, very careful about that. So you'll have to adopt to new methods of doing that. I don't think you can expect people to spit shine the ball exactly the way they did earlier, because that will put others at risk.
See, I'll give you a model, and I'm very clear about the model that I'm giving. I mean, I'm pretty much clear that whenever things come back in some sort of normalcy, or already we are seeing European nations open up, staggered lockdown. Yes, I'm seeing United States trying to follow a model, and I'm not saying that you rush it. But if I follow Anthony Fauci, who's the most careful and perhaps the best known infectious disease expert, he's talking about July for a return of Major League Baseball. I'm clear. Don't make people travel. Take the India-Australia series. If Australia comes to India or India goes to Australia, take them to one particular venue and play as, maybe 4 or 5 tests or whatever you want to play in that one venue. Yes, give it the same gap, but play it in one venue so you restrict travel, number one. In that one contained area, you are clearly minimizing the risk of the virus, number two. And then while you play, you can also control, each of these people can be tested using rapid antibody tests or whatever, by which time the tests would have evolved far better, because every week we are seeing progress as far as testing is concerned. That is not going to take as much time as the vaccine. So while I say India going to Australia end of the year, say, for example, one particular city which is clear, which is better, like we have in India, we have a Goa, we have a Manipur, we have a Kerala, we have some states like that. So you take people there, you play there. So Jhulan, if you can hear me now, I'm told you are back on. If you can hear me now, Jhulan, will you want to see your World Cup, for example? Will you, one, agree to playing in empty stadiums? And number two, if the ICC, or do you think the ICC should say that, okay, you know what, instead of 5 venues, we will bring it down to 1 or 2 venues because people don't have to travel around, and we will go ahead with the tournament like that? Will you agree to both of these things?
First of all, Boryada, absolutely. If you are playing in an empty stadium, that doesn't matter, because the cricket game must go on. And secondly, it's not important that how many venue you have creating. It's important that tournament should go on in a smooth way, and the situation that rapid testing, whatever things you are saying, you should go proper way. And if you can play in one venue, is I don't think have any problem, any difficulties. Past days we all are played in a small venues. It's not about that everywhere we're going to travel and play. It's just the last couple of years, particularly cricket, we are playing using a lot of other venues. But as a women's cricketer, we are used to it playing in one venue. And that's absolutely fine, as long as we are playing cricket. That's the most important thing. Either it's an empty stadium or full stadium, but cricket, the game must go on. So definitely, if it is empty stadium, I don't think so have any problem. And obviously, with those protocol, WHO's protocol guidelines, we have to follow. And definitely, as a sports person, we love to be on the field.
See, Nalin, that's my point. I think as we adapt, and you're absolutely right, that every single day, every single week is adaptability. But as we adapt, in fact, if you see the way science has progressed in the last 1 month since coming to terms with the virus, we have 70 odd drugs and multiple vaccines in human trial. I mean, we are seeing human trials start at the University of Oxford this Thursday. So clearly in 2-3 months down the line, we will have a world which is better equipped to understand this. But when it comes back, my sort of formula is simple. Do not undertake massive travel, because you can take people in chartered aircrafts, you can take broadcasters to one contained venue, which is cleared, which is sanitized. You play there, because take the IPL. Take the IPL. The IPL is ultimately, why is it so much money? Because it's television consumption. You and I both know that if the BCCI does not get the gate receipts, or if large number of people are not in the stadium, it doesn't matter, because 1 billion people will consume it on TV, and that's where the consumption is. So for me, the way I see sport grappling with it in the short term is definitely this. Having said that, I also think that whenever sport comes back in a corona-contained world, the virtual consumption of sport would be that much more, and this would have added to that. Nalin, my question to you: we are all talking about sort of the economy. When do we open up? Are you a little sort of surprised that major sporting events haven't yet come together? Take, for example, tennis is gradually doing to protect the layer below. For example, there is a massive layer below a Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic. What happens to such people? Are you seeing the BCCI, for example, come forward and protect its groundsmen? Cricket Australia do the same. Are you worried about that?
Absolutely, Boria, because look, firstly, I think you're right that we have to get back to something, and the alternative that you put forward is the only alternative forward. Contain it, do it in containment zones. That's the way, that's the adaptation sports can do. In terms of protecting the ecosystem itself, let's be clear. The elite layer of sports that we see is an outcome of the vast superstructure that's below. If we don't protect this vast superstructure, sports as we know it will collapse. And therefore, I think it's very incumbent on the BCCI, it's incumbent on other supporting federations to protect their own. I mean, they're seeing stimulus packages around the world from governments. I think we need to see something like that from sporting organizations like that, an equivalent of that, to protect the groundsmen, to protect the unseen heroes, to protect the layers 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the pipeline. Because unless we do that, we're going to be cutting off the supply chain, and we're going to be cutting off the entire infrastructure of what sport is built on by just see. Because the point you were making, Boria, about television, you're right. Virtual consumption will rise. It can survive as a television sport for some time. But that's also to protect the existing contracts and to keep the money flowing. But what will happen to this money if your structure below it collapses? And that's why I think it's incumbent. It's a social responsibility as well. Incumbent on all sporting federations. The more pressure we can exert on that, on the BCCI, on other federations, to protect their own and to give them some support to tide through this crisis, the better it is.
Jhulan, if I can come to you, I mean, a very fundamental question now. And this, because Algebra and HarperCollins have called this session Sporting Spirit. Now, people are suffering from two things. One, mentally, people are getting depressed. Number two, physically, you have a World Cup 1 year down the line, assuming the World Cup is played, should be played, because by then the world would definitely have come to terms with it. We might even have a vaccine by then. How do you prepare? How do you prepare yourself for something? Because you don't know a goal. You don't know when you will start. You don't know when you have to get back to the field. You don't have an immediate goal. So the mental challenge and the physical challenge is very much more for an elite athlete. How are you coping with it mentally and physically in these days of lockdown?
Boria, most important thing initially, yes, it was difficult. It was difficult because we don't know what's going to happen. Things are different. But yes, after coming through, ICC's news that we are qualified for the World Cup because of Pakistan point split, and we through for the World Cup. After that, we get that some little bit of motivation. We have one goal at this moment. That common goal is the 2021 World Cup in February in New Zealand. So we have that common goal. The main thing is at this moment you have to mentally prepare yourself. How you are going to prepare? You can plan out your routine. You can have your own routine. You can do little bit of other work, like you can use your terrace, you can use your corridor, you can use those things and do little bit of training twice in a day. And mentally you have to do little bit of positive thinking, discussing positive things, and read good amount of help, because otherwise it's very difficult. Motivate yourself each and every day in that small corridor or terrace, and doing all this training is not going to make you big help. Yes, physically, mentally, you'll be a little bit of fresh. The freshness is required at this moment. At this moment, mentally, you need peace. You need a certain amount of ideas that you can, have. Your routine can be it make proper way. So yeah, that is how I am doing. I don't know about the others, but I am doing this routine since last 15-20 days, that having a small goal, try to get motivate myself, and preparing, showing all these old videos of our matches, now how are if we are going to be on the ground, which area is going to work, how you are going to come back in your peak. So it's going to be challenge. Definitely it's going to be this
Nalin, I think Jhulan's having a
Perhaps
bit of a network issue there. I mean, now I have a very different kind of question. I don't think the world has attacked this. Take the Olympics. Assuming that the Olympics goes on, and if the Olympics at this point in time still 16 months away, I'm extremely hopeful, just like you are, everybody else, that we will have a vaccine, or at least we will have a therapeutic. Because for sure, the way the world is moving, therapeutic interventions will happen by then. Now, here's my question to you. China, which has controlled the pandemic, they have opened things up. They have their malls open. They have their offices open. They have their businesses open. They will get their athletes to train now. So the Chinese will actually, or the South Koreans, they will have a massive head start over some of the other countries. Now, is that a fair playing field, assuming that the Olympics goes on in 2021? Because clearly these countries will have a massive head start over, say, the United States or even Europe, which is still grappling with the pandemic and will take the foreseeable future to control it.
Would you just think about someone like a Vinesh Fogart, before we answer the Chinese question, somebody who was who got injured in the and retired in the last Olympics. He's fought her way back from a career-threatening injury. She was the peak of her form leading up to Tokyo had it gone on in time. And now again, you have this unending wait. The challenge is as mental as it's physical. The question you asked on will China and some other countries have an advantage in others? Yes, they will. But the alternative, I mean, at this point, you know how the debates that happened between the Japanese advantage on this. Some others will have less of an advantage, but I think there is no option right now for players to adapt to that. That's the nature of the world. The only alternative to that is that you either stop certain countries from participating, and that could also be a possibility, because if it becomes political, that could be a possibility, or you push it further down. And I don't think that's necessarily an option to push it indefinitely.
No, you can't. I mean, just to put things in perspective, you cannot push the Olympics back, because my conversations with leading Olympic leaders from around the world, Japan can't afford it, because already the enhanced expenditure is too much. Secondly, the Olympics has to have an Olympic village. Now, all of that land will be sold off. So the economic strain on Japan will be way too much for the IOC or the Japanese government to be able to push the Olympics back any further. So as on today, they are still very, very hopeful and preparing for 23rd of July, 2021. Now, again, one question to Nalin and one question to Jhulan. Jhulan, to you first. How are you? Are you in touch with the rest of the players? Are you in touch with your teammates? And are you in touch with the BCCI? Has the institution in any way sort of, how are you spending time? Do you know, are you doing video calls? Are you reading books? For example, for me, books are a massive, massive source of inspiration, which is why I readily agreed to doing this for HarperCollins and Algebra. Are you reading books? Are you in touch with some of your mates who are far younger? Because younger people will take it far more, for them, it is far more difficult to come to terms with it. How are you dealing with it?
Well, definitely, I'm touch with everyone. Basically, we have a one group, BCCI create after this Corona things happen. We have a one group when everyone is there. We keep discussing a lot of other stuff. We are putting videos over there, and exercise videos. What kind of exercise we are doing, and through that we are discussing each another thing, taking care from through video. We are taking care each other's. And one more thing is I'm reading a lot of books at this moment. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go on.
I'm reading a lot of books, particularly 2-3 books I'm reading. One is Swami Vivekananda's books, because I love to read about him, because he is one person who always motivate you, always encourage you. Basically, youngsters love to if you love to read Swami Vivekananda's book, you're going to be motivated massively. And second one I'm reading at this moment is Wings of Fire, that Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's autobiography. That's also very much inspiration. You're going to get a lot of motivation. And this more time, is such a crucial time for all of us. It's only things we can do, that we can motivate each other. We can take care of each other, and that's the thing we can do. That's one way we can help each other.
Nalin, if I can take that question to you, I mean, assuming it is corona contained, I mean, and I keep saying this. I mean, I have spoken to my friends at the University of Oxford. They remain very, very committed and sort of confident about the vaccine. The whole world is. I mean, there are multiple trials going on. Assuming it is a corona-contained world, how do you see Tokyo 2021? I mean, do you still see so many thousand people going there? Do you see restrictions in place? How do you see sport fundamentally changing as far as the Olympic Games is concerned? What is your vision? I mean, it is extremely difficult, I know, at this point in time to provide a concrete vision, but I will give you mine. But first, I want to know how you are seeing the Tokyo 2021 Olympics.
There's some issue with the audio, so I couldn't hear very clearly what you're saying. But from what little I could pick up, look, I think
if you can hear me now, can you hear me now?
Very little. Like, the voice is coming and going. So from what I can understand, I'll try and answer what I thought I could understand from what you were saying, but I could only pick up one or two snatches from it. In terms of the next few months rolling out, I agree with the argument that you were making earlier that sports will have to return to some kind of semblance of normalcy with empty stadiums to begin with, because there is no other option. And I think, look, I don't think sports is any different from many other sectors of the economy. We are seeing many other sectors of the economy in other parts of the world and in India returning back in phases, because you can't shut down an entire society as you know it. It's just impossible to continue like that. And that goes to the heart of the way we live. Now, do you have to maintain precautions? Absolutely. Till the time you have a therapeutic, till the time you have a vaccine, you will have people at risk. So therefore, you have to have reasonable restrictions in place. So if empty stadiums is a way out, if contained locations is a way out, because remember, it's not just about a spectacle. It's not just about entertainment. It's not just about it's not just about the sporting spirit. It's also about people's livelihoods. And it's not just the livelihoods of people who are on the playing field. It's entire industries linked to sport. So this is as much an economic imperative as it is a sporting and a cultural imperative. So therefore, we have to get back to some kind of a reordered reality on this. In terms of the Olympics, it has been pushed forward by a year. Think about the Olympics. We all think about Olympics as the greatest sporting spectacle on the planet. For Japan, it is also the centerpiece of the economic revival. It's not just about for the government of the current prime minister. They've bet their entire economy on the Olympics. The amount of money that it's not just about government money. It's also about the amount of money Japanese companies have put into it as a form of reviving the Japanese economy. So therefore, the amount of hit they're taking and the amount of hit they'll take if things don't go forward beyond a point will be catastrophic. Therefore, things must go forward in a different manner. The question that you had posed earlier, that what happens if certain countries have more advantages, what happens to that? I think those are things we'll just have to live with, because the alternative of cancelling things is the cost of that is much higher. Right now, I think we have to choose between between number of bad alternatives, and we choose the worst bad alternative.
I think Nalin Mehta makes some fantastic points there.
Alternative out of those, I'm sorry.
No, I'm absolutely sure about this. Nalin makes some really fundamentally important points there. What is my way forward for the Tokyo 2021 Games? First things, like the Athletics Federation has done, shut out qualification till December. Try and make it as much a level playing field. Because if you see, if Wuhan can open up in 76 days, every possible country will, because the other countries will be better prepared. Yes, WHO keeps talking about Africa, and the world, global solidarity and national unity are keywords. And that's what sport talks about. Because what is the Olympics ultimately? It is the biggest human celebration of all. So that's what Tokyo is all about. So here, just like the United Nations, the Olympics, the IOC has to come forward. This is a unique world. This is a unique world. And if we could grapple with world wars, if we could grapple with pandemics earlier, we will be, because science and technology will enable us to. So we will be able to, one. Number two, we should be willing to make compromises. And number three, we should be able to adapt. And so my point is very simple. If you do not have full stadiums, do social distancing. Because if you can get 60 people on a flight, you can absolutely get 200 people in a stadium. Maybe it's a smaller stadium or a contained stadium for some kind of sport. If Jhulan's talking about the MCG, The MCG actually is a 100,000 capacity stadium. Now, if you have 5,000 people there with adequate social distancing, or 10,000 people, maybe 7-8 months down the line, is that a possibility? The world will have to grapple with such possibilities. When Nalin and I wrote our book on the Olympics, Dreams of a Billion, which has been published by HarperCollins, I think we now have a far, far more important role to play. The question that we need to answer in our book is, how will sport change? And I'm already thinking how it will change. You can talk individual sports, we can talk team sports. And this is my next question. First one to Jhulan. Jhulan, do you think individual sports like tennis have an advantage over team sports just because there will be far less people there in a stadium to go ahead and play? So all you need is broadcaster, you need the 2 players, you need the very basic minimum staff. Compared to a team sports like cricket and football, where more so for football, which is body contact, cricket is not so much body contact. Do you think that is an advantage or a disadvantage?
It's
Well,
definitely an advantage, Boria. I mean,
Okay. Okay, now go ahead. I'll take Jhulan after you.
I had an audio glitch, so I thought the question was to me. Sorry. Jhulan, please
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Please, sir, carry on. Please, sir, carry on.
Go on, Nalin. Yeah, go on.
Is definitely an advantage for individual sports, because the physical risk to players is much lesser. Because remember, when you do testing, you can test players before and they can get onto the court. But testing also medically, the testing I think it reflects after there is a cutoff period after which the test also reflects. So there will always be some risk involved. So therefore, medically, the sports which are less contact will always be safer to resume earlier. There's always a gray area in the testing as well. From the time somebody gets a virus and the time it shows in a test, and that's why sports like tennis, badminton, they will have an inherent advantage in getting back to square one.
Jhulan, how about you?
I think well, absolutely. Tennis, badminton, all the sports have less amount of contacts, and there is nothing. Many players played, only 2 players and match officials, and less number of broadcaster. A team like cricket, football, you need a more people staying together in one dressing room. Football is more body contact, rugby is more body contact game, so it's difficult. So for me, definitely badminton, tennis, all these sports are far ahead than cricket and football and others body contact games. Yeah.
Jhulan, tell me something very practical. Is social distancing possible in a dress? Whenever cricket returns, will you all be able to maintain, even if it is a little bit, will you have this consciously at the back of your mind? Will there be any kind of social distancing, or is it at all possible, say in a dressing room?
Well, early stage, yes, we used to we never had this kind of situations. We do never practice this kind of social distance, all this stuff in a dressing room. We used to be together, we used to be hang around together. But the thing is, now we have to be little bit of back of the mind, that subconscious mind definitely will play that social distance, lot of other stuff. So yeah, it will be, it's going to be new challenge for all of us after this COVID-19 things gets over. So definitely we have to follow those guideline by BCCI, doctors, whatever guideline they'll give us to definitely follow. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit of difficult, because it's not going to be what it was in the earlies, and now it's going to be difficult for a team like cricket, football, and it's like a big dressing room you're going to have, and there is a lot of you stay very very small area, you spend 16 17 players in a same dressing room. So how you're going to accommodate those bags and everything is in a dressing room and all these things, that's going to be a big challenge. But yeah, same time, it is definitely, back of the mind, there will be some thought will be there, and definitely we are going to follow BCCI's guideline, on a BCCI medical team's guideline, and we're going to follow that strictly.
Nalin, I don't think we have too much time. So one question straight to you and one to Jhulan before I sort of try and wrap this up. To you, before I make the question, I have something very clear in my mind. I'm sure that testing, which is now taking 1 day, will no longer be the same in 2 months. Because if you read today's newspapers, you will see that in the United States, they've given emergency approval for a test by a lab which gives results in 20 minutes. So while you might not have a vaccine or a therapeutic in a month or two, I am sure you will be able to devise tests which give you results. Yes, RT-PCR at this point in time is the standard procedure, but you will get better quality tests. Number two, now if I sort of take the sporting world forward, think about this. Whenever this happens, Nalin, and this I'm giving you a bit of an optimistic scenario. If there is a vaccine, it's a big if, but the world lives on hope. We call this session Sporting Spirit. I live on hope. You do the same. If there is a vaccine by the end of the year, early next year, imagine what will happen to Tokyo, or whenever that happens. Imagine how sport will be the world's greatest coming out party. That for me still gives me goosebumps and gives me enormous amount of hope, because I'm very, very sure science will eventually triumph over this virus.
I think, Boria, in terms of hope, absolutely. I think we have to deal. Look, you can see a glass half full or half empty. We have an unprecedented crisis. There's no two ways about it. We will find solutions to it. In terms of timeline, as optimistic as you are on the timelines, because finding a vaccine or finding the right vaccine after trials or therapeutics and so on is one thing. Doing it on scale and rolling it out to entire populations is another thing, which will add to the timeline. Now, but I completely agree with you on the point on Tokyo that look, once you over the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, once things come back to some even keel with medical interventions as they roll out, I think people are cooped up. This is an unprecedented crisis. People will need a release, and Tokyo, in that sense, can serve as that global release if the timing works out right as far as all the other things are concerned. You are seeing already in India with a 2-week lockdown, which has now been extended and a further lockdown, the amount of how people are yearning to get back to some kind of normalcy. The normalcy will not be the same normalcy as it was earlier. It will be an altered version of that normalcy. I think let's be very crystal clear about it. But once some normalcy returns, and once the regular economic life or a version of that returns, you do need spectacles to get back. You do need celebrations of the human spirit. And Tokyo, in that sense, was initially supposed to be a revival of Japan, of a coming out of Japan, of Japan renewing itself. It may well now be a celebration of the renewal of the global spirit.
That's my point. That is exactly what my point is. Jhulan, my last question to you before I close this session with a few closing comments. One, how hopeful are you that the 2021 World Cup will happen? And suppose it is left to an individual choice that, yes, we are not yet 100%, but we will play in a contained world. Will you still want to go out and play for your country? And what is the one thing, whenever the lockdown lifts, what is the one thing that you are looking forward to doing? What is the first thing that you will do once the lockdown lifts and you are allowed to go out?
2021 World Cup was, I'm 100% hopeful it's going to be happen. And if this is going to be choice, individual, that things are not 100% cured, and if you want to come and play for your country, then I'm 100% sure that I'm there and playing for my country. This is going to be one opportunity to represent my country, that I'm going to be, do that. I love to do that. And secondly, I love, whenever lockdown will get over, first thing I'll going to do the ground, 6 o'clock morning, and doing my training on the field. I'm looking forward for that, because I'm very hopeful that this lockdown will get over very soon, and definitely we're going to be on the back on the field. But there will be lot of terms and condition will be there, but we'll definitely follow those terms and condition. That terms and condition going to be help us. But I'm looking forward to play, go to the ground and do my training first, because I'm just waiting for that. Yeah.
Okay. I was told by my colleagues at HarperCollins and Algebra that our time is nearly up. So my closing thoughts. Look, sport is far too resilient to go down to anything, be it a virus, be it a pandemic, be it an epidemic. there is always light at the end of the tunnel. 5 weeks back and 5 weeks down, we have a different world. The world is grappling with that challenge. Jhulan Goswami, from one day in 1997 when she was disallowed to play with men in her own house, eventually goes on to take 200 plus wickets in the world, becoming the first, and now closing in on 300, becoming the first once again. Nalin Mehta and I, when we were researching our book on the Olympics, we documented stories of human survival, which included Jesse Owens performing in front of Hitler in Nazi Germany in 1936, winning 4 gold medals. This is what sport is. We know what Jackie Robinson did in the United States in 1947, breaking the color line. We know what Curtis Flatt did in the United States in 1963. We know what sport did to India. India's coming out party in 2011 and in 1983. One thing, friends, sport will come back strong. Yes, maybe 3 months down the line in empty stadiums, 6 months down the line in empty stadiums, but whenever that comes back, you, me, all of us, the entire sporting fraternity will celebrate not only that country's coming out party, but the globe's coming out party, because by then we would have control over this virus. Sport and the resumption of sport will signal the triumph of this world over the coronavirus. And you, me, HarperCollins, Algebra, all of us will wait for that particular day. Thanks, Payal, for making this session possible at Algebra. Thanks, Shabnam, Udayan, Krishna, and the entire team at HarperCollins for inviting all of us. Nalin, you're a rock star. Just know this, whenever the Olympics happen, we will add 2, 3, 4 more chapters to our book as to what happened in this interim year and document that for readers. And Jhulan, you are family to me. You know what you mean to me. All the very best with your preparation. And I'm sure as well that the World Cup will happen. Much love to all of you.
Thank you.
Stay safe,
Thank you.
stay indoors, keep reading books, keep following all of us. And the fact is, there is hope at the end of the tunnel. Stay safe, and soon we will have light.
Thank you.
Boria, Nalin, Jhulan, thank you so much for joining us
Thank you, ma'am.
today. I think one of the fascinating things about a conversation like this is that it illuminates the stakes that are often invisible to those of us who watch but do not play, who do not participate, or who are not part of the ecosystem of the sport fraternity itself. There are so many questions more, because this is just the beginning. We hope to have you back, particularly to ask, when will money come back to sport? Does money fuel sport? Does sport fuel money? I know those are a whole new set of questions. The post-pandemic economy will look entirely different. And how does that inflect sport and vice versa? We hope to have all of you back for a follow-up conversation. All the best to you, Jhulan, with your training. Thank you, Nalin and Boria, for joining us. And thank you to everybody who was watching today. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.